Rambam, Maimonides, fascinating laws, loiva umalve, borrowing and lending. Mentioned that, in the Torah, you have to give a free loan. Between Jews, you're not allowed to take interest. And there are many ramifications to that law. Many rabbinic, excuse me, shades of what we call interest based on that. They're not even interest, but they may appear like interest, or they may, and it got to do with how business is done. So, all right. Chapter 16. A debt is the responsibility of a borrower until he pays the lender or the lender's agent. Right? So, when's the crossover? When do you stop being responsible for, what you owe? So if the lender said, throw the money owed to me and become freed of responsibility, and the borrower threw it to him and it became lost or destroyed by fire before it reaches the lender, the borrower is not responsible because, right? He said, throw it to me. I mean, obviously, if he was negligent, that's a different story. If he threw it into the fire, right? Okay. If the lender said, sorry, if the lender said, throw the money owed to me and become freed of responsibility, the borrower threw it to him and it became lost or destroyed by the fire before it reaches the lender, the borrower is not responsible. Sorry, read that again, huh? The following rules apply if the lender told him. Now the lender said it to him. One second. Lender said it before also. Lender said, yeah, okay. See, Oh, all right. The following rules apply when the lender told him, throw the money owed to me in a manner governed by the laws of the bill of divorce. If the money was closer to the borrower, it is his responsibility. If it was closer to the lender, the borrower is no longer responsible. If it is half and half, and it was lost or stolen, from there the borrower is required to pay half of the debt. Interesting. So the bill of divorce is the law there is that it has to reach to the woman in her hand, in her 4 cubits around her, or on her property, or in this instance over here, closer to her than to him. Right? And that's the idea over here. Again, no one is probably ever saying this. I haven't mentioned this for a while, but I'm overdue, I think. Remember that when we're learning Rambam, that it sounds like a pretty odd, sometimes very odd, in what the statements are. When the lender would say, just hand over the money, right? But what we're doing through this is giving the parameters for the law. Okay. And therefore, responsibility of, who has responsibility. So it's just giving parameters of these laws. Okay, number two. When Reuven owes Shimon a mana is 100 zuz. It gives the mana to Levi and tells him, give this mana that I owe Shimon to him. Reuven may not retract. Why can't he retract? Huh. Yeah, interesting. So he can't retract because he owes it to him. And I'm not perfectly clear, but the the Levi, who is his agent, right, acting, is in the end, so when I'm not clear, I would understand when Shimon, if it's okay, Reuben is making him as an agent, so it's his agent. Why can't he for some reason, the moment he gives it to him, it's almost like he became Shimon's agent. I don't quite clear why. Shimon didn't appoint him, Reuven did. So if he can appointed him, why can't he unappoint him? But for some reason, and I don't get it, the point there, the uh, the note didn't clarify it for me, right? But that's not the point, I guess. So that's not the point over here. Nevertheless, he's held responsible for the mana until it reaches Shimon. Because indeed, he is his agent, not Shimon's agent, right? If Levi returned the mana to Reuven, they are both responsible for it until Shimon receives full payment of the debt owed. Oh, wow. Yeah, they're both responsible because he has the money. And again, for some reason, even though he's Reuven's agent, the borrower, some reason I guess because since it's owed, it's already like somewhat in his possession, and that money, it's his. And therefore he's responsible. But commentators say you can't go to the agents first. You have to go to Shimon to Ruvain first because Ruvain's the one who owes the money. Okay. A transfer. Hold on 1 second. Just I'm gonna call you back. I'm in the middle. I'm just in the middle of teaching. Oh, look at that, sweetheart. Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, sweetie. Yeah, no, Baruch Hashem, much, much. Hey, Sylvia. Yeah, I'll call you. Bye. A transfer of debt is rescinded in the following situation. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Reuven owed Shimon a mana. Okay. Shimon told Reuven, take the mana that you owe me and give it to Levi. Okay, now he's making the right, the other way. Since the three were standing together and Levi agreed, we're together. The transfer would ordinarily be binding. It's called a Maimed Shloishtan. There's a unique law that three people standing together, right? And I owe you, and you say, give it to him. So that kind of threesome, it's like, and those words are sufficient. It's like a rabbinic law, and we've learned it before. I'm not certain the foundation of it, like where it comes from exactly, but that's the idea. But that nevertheless, if it is discovered that Reuven is poor and does not have the resources to pay Levi, and doesn't have to pay rather, Levi can ask Shimon for payment of the debt, for he deceived him. Ah, okay. So in other words, yeah, okay, that's the instance, right? So the Maimon Shalishim, right? I owe you, and you says to him, give it to him. But if I'm poor and I can't give it, so that's why he said give it to him. Because he owed him. I don't know if you got what I just said. That's the modern update version of who's on first and what's on second. I just made that up. All right. Okay. So in other words, oh man. Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you for putting up with my so normally that threesome, right? That threesome would work. And therefore, Shimon doesn't have to pay Levi. Reuven has to pay. But now we see, no, this guy was a character. He only is, Now, Reuven was a poor guy, and he doesn't have the means, and he's not going to be able to pay him. So he was kind of deceived. Now, Reuven didn't want to say anything because, anyways, he owes the money. He wants to pay, but he just doesn't have the means to pay. So I'm going to say, well, I'm too poor, I can't pay it. So he said nothing, but so that becomes that transfer is rescinded, meaning the threesome right there. That's the if Levi knew that Reuven was poor at the time, or Reuven was rich at the time and became impoverished afterwards, Levi cannot demand payment from Shimon for he accepted the transfer. But Levi, right, he accepted, and he knew Reuven was poor, or that he was rich and became impoverished, right? Oh no, no, he was rich. He only became impoverished afterwards, right? Now, at that moment, he was rich, and he could pay it. But then a week later, he lost everything. Then that transfer is and Shimon, he can't come back to Shimon, right? Because you agreed to take it from him. Is that clear? Yeah. Thumbs up. I just want to make sure. Okay, good. Okay. If Levi argues that Reuven was poor at the time, and Shimon deceived him, and Shimon maintains that he was wealthy and later became impoverished, it appears to me that Shimon must bring proof of his claim. So Shimon has to bring the proof. Why? Okay. Because he has a promissory. Okay. Only then is he free from responsibility from the debt he owes to Levi. This is not different from an instance that he has a receipt in his hand, and we tell him, prove the authenticity of your receipt, and then you'll be freed of responsibility. Okay. In other words, you have to authenticate the fact that he was rich at the time and then became impoverished, and therefore, since Levi accepted it, Shimon is no longer responsible. Okay, we already explained the following concept in the laws of business transactions. These laws apply okay. These laws apply when Reuven was not owed anything by Shimon, but did owe a mana to Levi. Reuven was not owed anything by Shimon, but did owe. Who owed? Haya Reuven Chayev. 1 second. Reuven Shimon Klum. Haya Reuven Chayev Lelevi. But Reuven, okay, but Reuven did owe Levi. Okay? If he told Levi to collect the debt from Shimon, even if he made that statement in the presence of the three of them, it's not binding. Huh? Oh, why not? I'm missing something here. If Shimon does not desire to pay Levi, need not. If, however, he does pay him, he may collect the money from Reuven, since he paid him because of his instructions. Okay. 1 second. What's unique over here is Shimon doesn't owe anybody, right? It's a different scenario. Reuven owes Levi, right? So he tells Levi, get it from Shimon. Not because Shimon owes Reuven. So there's no circle over here, right? There's no circle that one's touching the other. Just take it from Shimon, right? And the three of them are standing there. Shimon's his good friend. And, take it from Shimon. I'll take care of Shimon later, right? Follow? It's not that if Shimon owed to Ruvain and he told Levi, take from him, because there's a circle over here of how we're connected to each other with owed monies. But here there's no circle. I'm just telling Levi, take from Shimon, not because Shimon owes me, because Shimon's a good guy and he's helping me out right now. So if Shimon had owed me and I told Levi, take it from him because I owe Levi, so there's a complete circle over here. And when the three of us are standing and we make that agreement, it's binding. But Shimon over here has got nothing to do with this. He's not part of the circle here. He's just a guy who's going to help out Reuven. He can opt out anytime he wants. even though, in other words, it's not a binding agreement because there was nothing that binded them except the fact that he's a nice guy and he was going to help him out. Is that clear? Good. Right? It's not binding. I mean, obviously, if he wants to help him out, he can do it, but he's not bound by it. That's what's important over here. By law, he's not bound. If Shimon does not desire to pay Levi, he doesn't have to. If, however, he does pay him, he may collect the money from Reuven, since he paid it because of his instructions, right? You asked me to do you a favor. I did you a favor. So, right? So if Levi desires to retract and say, I do not desire to collect the debt from Shimon, he may collect the debt from Reuven, right? Because there's no, it's not binding that the three of them, when they stood together and they made that agreement, it's not a binding agreement because there was nothing that bound them except their, the fact that their words, right? That's all what's called a ma'amad shloshim. The usual, again, Reuven owes Shimon 100. Levi, sorry, I don't have a third hand yet. Levi owes Reuven 100, right? We're all standing together. Oh, okay, me. I just, right? Standing together. I owe him. He owes him. So we're bound together. And now when I say, hey, what you I owe, you give it to him. Okay, that's binding. You can't retract that if the three of them are together and agree on that. But that's not the case here. This applies even if he collect a portion of the debt from Shimon, he may collect the remainder from Reuven. Wow, fascinating. Okay. Baruch Hashem, I had a lot more energy than I expected. Baruch
Thank you,
Hashem.
Rabbi. Be well.
Thank you. Okay, don't forget to buy some holy books today.